Serious. Girls who have been guilted into going out with a nice guy. How did it go? He was genuinely nice, and I thought I was being too picky, and maybe I could see this through if I took the effort of getting to know him. But every time I offered a contradictory point of view on any generic topic of discussion, he would proceed to casually mock my appearance, attire, and my personality in retaliation to my disagreement. That was the last date, obviously. We were friends in high school and most of college. It was one of those things where he was a friend of a friend, but we always went to the same parties, hung together in the same group, and so on. The guys in the group would always say things like, "Aw man, you and Kyle would be so great together, you should give him a shot." I'd kind of laugh it off because for a majority of the time I had a boyfriend. Eventually, me and the boyfriend broke up. And about a week later, Kyle asked me out. I wasn't really ready, but I figured it was a first date and everyone had been pressuring me into giving this guy a chance, so I went. The whole evening was awkward. We just ordered a pizza and watched movies, which was what we did in our friend group anyways, but this guy would not stop staring. It felt like I couldn't even eat because I was under a microscope. The evening ended uneventfully, but then there was the aftermath. We kept texting and seeing each other in the friend group, and about a week later he asked when we could have another date. I told him that maybe I had rushed into things too fast and I just wasn't feeling any connection with him. "I broke up with my girlfriend for you!" Yup. Dude found out I was single, dumped his girlfriend of 8 months just so he could ask me out to an awkward pizza date in his bedroom. The timely cherry on top is that they got back together, and apparently I'm tearing their marriage apart because she found a bunch of texts from me from 6 years ago, and he admitted that he kept them because he still likes me. I haven't seen him in 4 years. Sounds like this guy was just a little too obsessed with you, so good on you for getting out. Not saying he isn't a perfectly fine person in other ways, but the pedestal he has you on isn't healthy. Guys, you gotta learn to move on. The date wasn't too bad, although he kept changing pretty much every single sentence he said so it would fit my interests. Something like, "I like ice cream." "Oh, cool, I like frozen yogurt." "Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. Ice cream is nice, but frozen yogurt is amazing." And so on for 4 hours straight. At the end, I had no idea what he was actually like. He also kissed me in the most awkward way possible. I guess he thought it was going to be romantic and spontaneous, but it wasn't. Then kissed me again when he walked me to the train station. He hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe and started making weird noises. Kind of like what some people do during heavy pre-intercourse makeout sessions, except it was a rather quick kiss in a public place. Started texting me before I even got home, and when I didn't answer, got upset. Told him he was nice, but I don't think we'd work out. Said it's cool, asked if we can stay friends. Silly me, I said yes. We kept talking for about a month, during which he very friendly kept checking if I had slept with someone else and making sure I know how much of a intercourse god he is. You know, I once even made my lesbian friend come super hard. There is also the time I met my current boyfriend and was meeting a bunch of new people at uni, so we'd talk less and less each week. Then one day he asked me out. I said I wasn't sure if he was completely fine with us being just friends, so that wouldn't be appropriate. He went on this massive rant about how he'd actually been seeing someone else in that time, but they broke up shortly before that. How he's so over me and didn't even think I'm that hot anymore, and how nothing would happen. I said no because I was broke and couldn't fully enjoy myself while worrying about not spending too much. We were supposed to go to a Metallica concert. Apparently his best friend had spent PS 120 on his ticket, but then last minute found something better to do. But he promised he'd take care of everything, and we could chill at his place with pizza and some films, as friends. I said I could consider the concert, but there's no way I'd stay over. I mentioned texting someone else to see if they would be fine with me sleeping over at theirs afterwards. He jokingly asked if it's someone I'm sleeping with, and I said it's none of his business. Then he told me how much of a bish I was for sleeping with other people and not sleeping with him. Said it's so unfair that he knew me so much better, but he felt like other people had more rights to me than him. And that we kissed and he didn't expect me to be this S. By the way, I did not want to kiss him. It was just so random I felt him making out with me before I even realized what his intentions were and stopped it rather quickly. Then he called me a few more names, said he's such a nice guy and didn't deserve to be treated like that, and we never spoke again. Dear guys, here's a bit of advice for you. If you have ever told someone else defensively how you are a nice guy, I got some bad news for you. I was a college freshman. First week of school, I was in my dorm hangout area going through the calendar on my phone to add exams to my schedule. I didn't realize that nice guy was looking over my shoulder as I was doing so. He goes, "I see you don't have plans on Saturday. We're going to breakfast." I continually objected and said I just hadn't got around to adding anything to it yet. He wouldn't leave me alone about it all week, so eventually I agreed to go on Saturday. I was purposefully on my worst behavior in an attempt to repulse him because clearly my opinion didn't matter otherwise. He ended the date by calling his mom, telling her that he met his future bride, that we were going to give her grandchildren. He handed the phone to me, so I straight up told his mother that I had no interest and was only there because he wouldn't leave me be, and apparently acting like a barnyard animal wasn't enough of a turnoff. Mom laughed and said, "Sounds like my boy." He would sit on the couch outside my dorm door to bombard me whenever I tried to go anywhere, followed me to and from classes for 2 months, and tried to befriend my roommate to get closer to me before moving on to a new target. She ended up with a restraining order against him. Wasn't really a date. I was at a hiking trip with my sister and other people from our village when we met a group of guys, drinking and having fun. Was on German Father's Day, so it wasn't an unusual sight. For some reason, my sister got into a talk with the guys and somehow got me and her invited for the party at one of the guys' house later. No big deal, we brought her boyfriend with us and were expecting some good time. My boyfriend was on a biking trip with his dad, so he couldn't come. We arrive and nobody else is there. Guy says they will all arrive later and we are early, 30 minutes after the time he told us to be there. And we start drinking, having fun and everything. He clearly has a thing for me, invites me to go on festivals with him. Sister's boyfriend tells me I would be stupid if I say no, and he would totally be going. The others arrive, and at some point, the homeowner asks me to go out for a walk. He needs some air. We walk for a bit, and suddenly he turns around telling me I am the love of his life, the girl meant for him, most beautiful, smart, etc. he has ever seen. I was shocked and didn't know what to say except, I have a boyfriend, you know. He said he doesn't care, we're clearly soulmates, and then just kisses me out of nowhere. Tells me he would break up with his girlfriend for me. He never mentioned her before, and I should do the same. Luckily, my sister blacked out on the toilet and someone shouted at him for help unlocking the door, so we went back up. I took care of my sister, his girlfriend arrived, he pulled me aside and told me he would do it now, right here. I said no, and he told me to take my sister and leave, what I did then. He messaged me on Facebook the next day that I was a W, and I lead him on, and he almost broke up with his future wife for a B like me. Not sure if I would call that person a nice guy, more like an intense, frightening D-bag who needs to learn the difference between sudden infatuation and actual emotional connection. Good Lord. I was that girl who loved the bad boys. My nice guy had been my best friend for a number of years, and I always knew he liked me, but I was busy chasing a-holes. 9 years we were best friends and grew up together, and he watched me pick all the wrong people and get hurt. Other friends kept telling me to give it a chance, etc. 2 years ago, he asked me to come over for dinner. It seemed fairly casual until I realized he'd asked me for Valentine's Day. I can't say I was guilted as such, but it still felt a little awkward. I was mega nervous thinking it was going to be so awkward, but when I turned up, it was fine. He'd cooked me a meal, bought flowers, a bottle of wine, and chocolates, and lit a candle on the table. I don't drink much, so he ended up getting through the whole bottle of wine because he was so nervous, but it was a lovely evening, and things felt very natural, so I decided to give it a go. We're now headed towards our 2nd anniversary, have a lovely home together, a beautiful but evil Egyptian Maucat, and couldn't be happier. Because we were friends first, we know we get on, we finish each other's sentences, and never run out of conversation. Yet to have one argument that goes beyond whose turn it is to wash up, lol. He's genuinely the best thing to happen to me ever. Sometimes the nice guy does win. To be fair, this person sounds like an actual nice guy and not a nice guy. Good for you two. Throwaway account for this, as don't want my story tracing back to me. I met him through online dating, and after a couple of weeks of chatting online, decided to cool things off as he was giving off a creepy, needy vibe that frightened me. He would ask about ex-boyfriends frequently and tell me that he would be good for me, ask intimate questions without any encouragement, and want to know intimate details. I forgot all about him until he sent me a random message months later and apologized for his previous behavior, which he blamed on a tricky breakup. Time passed and he seemed a new person, so I gave in and met with him. Our first couple of dates seemed fine, with just a few odd comments that I should have paid attention to. Then he started questioning where I was and who I was with, but again, I just foolishly ignored this. The first time and last time I stayed at his, we went out for a drink beforehand, and he was judging me for having a couple of drinks. When we got back to his, I wasn't feeling up to anything intimate, so I told him firmly no and went to sleep. Later that night, I woke up to him on top of me. I never confronted him about this. I just pretended I hadn't woke up and made my excuses the next day before blocking him from my life. I've never told anyone this before. I just wish I'd listened to my previous instinct and kept well away. Well, I might not be a girl. I was the nice guy in my first relationship. I was meeting a girl which I knew from a friend's girlfriend. Well, at first, everything was nice, and we weren't having anything serious, just meeting like friends, playing paintball and billiard and so on. However, I really liked her, and she did recently break up, and I tried to cheer her always up. So then I asked her politely if she would consider trying a relationship, and to my surprise, she said yes. I was the happiest guy on earth this day. So we started dating seriously, going to cinema and doing stuff alone. But I don't know why, however, I really got clingy. Like, I wanted to see her all the time. I wanted her to come over to me, and it ended up creeping her, which in hindsight I really understand, and she got continually creeped out until she broke up, and I was devastated. I didn't force her to anything, but I was, as I said, clingy. After that, I was depressed for over a year and then got my crap together. However, I am sorry that she had to experience me like that, and I also apologize for that, and now we are just normal friends. Not as good as before, but, well. But all in all, it ended up good for me since, because of that, I ended up with my current girlfriend, and without seeing my failures from past, I wouldn't be able to hold this relationship. Honestly, that's great. A lot of nice guys don't ever seem to have the benefit of actual self-reflection and growth. It's good to hear that, hey, some nice guys can ditch the quotes. I was in high school and figured I should give the guy a chance. Maybe I was just being snobby. Anyway, we decided to go to the movies. His older sister came along to chaperone and spent the movie sitting in my lap to make sure we didn't get up to anything funny. After the movie, I said I had to go home. Later that night, he calls me crying to confess he'd snapped a picture of me and whacked off to it. There was not a second date. Incidentally, this was when I began to have an inkling that I maybe liked girls. My story definitely isn't half as bad as what others have posted, but my experience did send me into a hole of recluse crappiness. He liked me based off my taste of music, not actually for me. At the time, 15 years ago, hardstyle/trance was still underground and not like it is now in Australia. I happened to be the first girl he had met who liked this music, so he thought I was cool and wanted to date me. He guilted me into dating him by being depressed and sulking, saying I wasn't even giving us a chance. That it could be something fruitful, but we would never know. Big red flag should have been when his idiot friends were contacting me on ICQ. For you youngins, it was how us oldies communicated with each other back in the 1880s via instant messaging, trying to sell him to me. It was all the typical crap of, he's a great guy, he hasn't eaten since you turned him down, he doesn't even laugh anymore. And all of the usual crap. Being naive me, I thought, why not? He did seem to make a good case when he said I was denying us a chance. He definitely proved his worth after a week of dating. He pulled out all of the romantic stuff no guy ever had, even until this day. We went to different high schools. He skipped his final class of school every day to pick me up from my school and drove me home, half-an-hour drive to get to my house, then another half-hour drive for him to get to his home. Bought me no occasion flowers, wined and dined me. I really felt stupid for turning him down at first. A month goes by, and he ends our relationship over the phone. But by this time, I thought he was the best thing ever, despite not actually having anything in common. I didn't even find him funny, but just the way he treated me made me feel like this is what love is meant to be. He just said he wasn't feeling it anymore. I found out the day after from a friend that there was a new girl at their school and he thought she was hot stuff, so his thought process was to drop me, woo her, and then live a happy life together. Turns out the new girl didn't like him, and he and his entourage tried the same guilt trip with her. She was a lot smarter than me to continually turn him down. At the time, I felt like I had a huge hole in my heart. I'd never been so spoilt with love in my life. I didn't know how to handle the pain, so I wrote poems and listened to sad music. I remember putting Vertical Horizon Everything You Want on repeat. I felt stupid to tell my friends about the situation in fear of them saying, "Wasn't that the creep who tried to win you over and you weren't interested in him anyway?" After a few months of the idiot failing to win the new girl over, guess who came crawling back? I never told him that I knew about his crush on the new girl and his failed attempts of winning her over. He said crap like, "I realized how much I missed/love you in the last few months. I didn't know what I was thinking when I broke up with you." It was at that moment that I realized that it wasn't losing him that I was upset over. It was the feeling of being loved and being spoilt that I missed. I just said, "Well, the last few months have made me lose feelings for you like you said you had for me." It still sucked and took me a long time to get over the short-lived month of feeling loved. Took me even longer to get over the fact that I was hurt over a bloody con man who didn't even like me for me. Edit. Holy moly, thank you for all the messages. I didn't think anyone would read my response being a massive long roll of text. This was 15 years ago and this story no longer affects me, but I still remember the emotional roller coaster ride like it was yesterday. It wasn't my first love, but it was the first time I felt so extremely hurt and felt grown up, even for a teenager. I have dated since and am currently in a healthy long-term relationship. We all live and learn. There is a sequel to this event, story number 2. After this breakup, I confided in a nice guy friend, Fred. Not even going to hide his name because this guy is a stage 1000 weirdo. I told Fred how ripped off I felt and how I could not absolutely believe that I could not get over a relationship lasting only a month when I handled the breakup of my 3-year relationship a lot better. He listened to all of my sorrows and said that I will get back on my feet someday. I didn't know he meant that he was the one to prop me back on my feet. I told him of the dirty tactics ex-boyfriend used to get me and how uneasy it had made me knowing he was a wreck because of me denying our potential relationship. So Fred thought it would be genius to ask me out the exact same way ex-boyfriend did. Gee, who'd have thought that would work again? Fool me once, am I right? At first, when I said no, he said he was only joking. He just wanted to see how I would react to his demands of dating me. Yeah, okay, I'll just let that slide. He got creepier by saying things like, "Stripey pink pants, how do you know when you love someone?" I can't remember how I dealt with that situation, but I remember feeling very awkward. Anyway, he would say these things and let me stew in it. On the very last day of school, he wanted to hang out with me, which sounded like fun. Little did I know he had plans to confess his undying love for me. He leaned in for a kiss, which I blocked with my hand, asking what the F he was doing. He sat there tearfully weeping, wanting to know why I would submit to one guy's demands of dating them, but not his. I had enough of his crap by this time, told him not to talk to me anymore. He did the exact opposite of that. Would call my home phone a lot, send me a lot of emails, Yahoo days, and rocked up to my house once or twice unannounced. My mom played the role quite well of Stripey Pink Pants is in trouble and can't talk to boys. So he enlisted his female cousin to contact me instead. I remember her telling me, "Fred is really upset you won't give him a chance and said if you don't talk to him in the next 10 minutes, he will drive off a cliff." Okay, whatever, dude. I've got other things to do. Long story short, he did not drive off a cliff, and after he was done stalking my friends and I, he eventually gave up and haven't heard from him since. I absolutely love this story. The biggest props to this person for one of the greatest realizations you can have in dating. That sometimes you're more attached to the feeling of being loved than you are to the actual relationship. That is super hard for some people to figure out, especially in high school. It is also a lesson I think a lot of nice guys need to learn. Not outright guilted, but more found myself in the situation and couldn't back out. Bit weird at first given the circumstances of me distinctly not wanting to be there, but things gradually got more weirder as the night went on. He made really intense eye contact and told me about how he doesn't smoke or drink, just goes to clubs sober. Also told me about how he plans to stay in the country, he was a foreign student, but needs to settle down with someone here first. Then he told me he was really passionate. My dumb butt asked passionate about what, and he just stared at me and repeated he was really passionate. It was crap, and I'm more vocal about whether or not I want to be somewhere, do something now. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Guilted me into having a 1-year relationship with one. He was super nice at first, and I was young and naive. He flirted, seemed nice and honest, so I thought, what the hell, why not give it a go? Big mistake. Realized quite quickly that he just wasn't for me and had very different political views, very different opinions on things. He was very degrading of me, made fun of my weight, made me think I was fat. I was not at all, always had a healthy BMI, always have been sporty. But obviously, being my young teenage and vulnerable self, that really crushed my self-esteem. So when I finally decided I had the balls to say I don't want to be with you anymore, he guilted me into staying with him, saying, "You'll never find a guy who will love you like I love you," or "If you leave me, I'll kill myself," and all the rest of the typical reasons a nice guy will use to guilt you into staying. In the end, I ghosted him. We were supposed to meet up, but I never showed up. I changed my number, deleted social media for a couple of years, moved out. Never heard from him again, which I am very pleased to say. Good on ya. Another great lesson. Sometimes these guys don't deserve a face-to-face breakup or anything like that. When it comes to these manipulative D-bags, ghosting them and cutting them out of your life is the best answer. After a few years of tepid friendship, something was always a bit off about him, but I thought he was such a nice guy and I was just being a judgy bish, plus he always claimed to be so in love with me, I agreed to a few dates with my friend. On one date, we went out with a whole group of couples to this state park a few hours away, and during the ride home, I dozed off. I woke up to him groping me under my clothes, and when I told him off, he twisted it around like I was being ridiculous and imagined his hand under my bra. Like, we were on a date, why was I being so weird, etc., etc., etc. When I told him I had to cancel our 4th date because I'd gotten grounded after accidentally setting the kitchen on fire, he punched me, mostly in the face. Punched me. He spent the rest of high school periodically stalking me/my sisters, ranting and raving to literally everyone about how I just didn't understand, and he loves me. He's just so emotional with his true love for me that sometimes he acts without thinking. He's not like those other guys that would make intimate comments about my appearance. Why did I have to be such a Stacy? He's the best friend I ever had until I ruined it all by willfully misunderstanding and refusing to hear him out or give him closure, on and on. What a nice guy. Guess he tried to break into my bedroom window out of love and concern. This will get buried, but I'll never forget that nice guy. I had been homeless for 2 to 3 months, and I said frick it and started stripping at a local strip club. I was able to make enough cash a week to finally get a place of my own. Instead, I wanted roommates so I could use it to go back to school. I found some guys looking for a roommate, and I was able to get in there with them. We all got along. We were all nerds. Me and first roommate got along great. Second roommate was very quiet and ignored me a lot. After the 3rd month of living together, my second roommate was a complete creep. He would text me all the time asking where I was, who I was with. He would tell me when he graduated, he was 2 semesters away, that we could get married and I would never have to strip again. He texted me almost every day. I fell asleep once on the couch and this dude groped me while I was asleep. He kissed me without asking. He would constantly take my purse and put it in his room, so I had to talk to him and ask for my stuff was. After about a month of that stuff, I sort of started sleeping somewhere else, at my boyfriend's house, or I just wouldn't go home and stay out until 9 a.m. I would work double shifts at the club, so 2 p.m. until 2 a.m., just so I wouldn't be at the apartment. I remember this one night I got out of work at 2 a.m. and decided to drive to the beach because I didn't want to go home yet. I'm halfway there when another club calls and asked if I want to work an after-hours shift. I say okay and head back. I leave at 5 a.m. from that club and head again to the beach to watch the sunrise. I'm about to hit the bridge to get to the island, and creepy roommate calls me. Tells me to come home, that I need to be home and safe, and that he really needs to talk to me. I hang up after I tell him I don't care and I don't like him. I call my other roommate and ask where creepy roommate is. Nice roommate tells me he's just playing League of Legends. I flat out sighed and just hung up. Creepy roommate calls again and tells me he's going to kill himself if I don't go home to him. I hang up and call other roommate again. Nice roommate tells me that creepy roommate took all the knives into the bathroom and locked himself in there. I'm furious. Like, this guy was 23 years freaking old, acting like a high school girl having her first breakup. I drive all the way back. I run up the stairs into my apartment and knock on the door. He opens it slowly and I slam it open. I was mad. I asked him what was so important that I needed to be home. He takes me downstairs to his car. This dude kneels down and opens the trunk to his car, and there's a bouquet of flowers. And I'm like, no, I don't like you. He takes out a paper from his pocket and reads a poem he wrote. I leave this dude there and just get in my car and take off. Like I've been telling him almost every day to leave me alone, that I don't like him, that I do not want to date him, and he just didn't get the point. He reached out to me like 2 years after I left that apartment. I told him to leave me alone. Then he called me a sea dumpster, I had a baby with someone, and that I was trash and I was the worst thing that ever happened to him. I hate nice guys. Okay, so first off, F this a-hole. No matter your gender, if someone gropes you or kisses you without your consent, that's assault. Even if you're dating, if they are groping you when you're asleep, that's friggin' assault. Second, guys, if a girl says they aren't interested, stop pursuing them. I don't care if it works in movies. Friggin' Spider-Man is in movies and he isn't real. What? Okay, that didn't make a ton of sense, but you get what I mean. I'm a guy and gave a nice girl a chance. She was one of those I'm not like other girls. We went out for a casual pizza and drink dinner. This was in college about 12 to 15 years ago. She kept repeating what we would now call memes, like, OMG, pizza is lifestyle choice. Awkwardly charming the first time, but not funny and annoying the 10th time. She talked about herself the entire time. Most of it was humble bragging about her faults, like, it's just that I care too much about my friends, and I guess I'm just the type of person that's 100% honest and can't accept dishonesty in others. I could have left for 10 minutes and it wouldn't have interrupted her conversation. It was like watching a one-person episode of the Gilmore Girls. Afterwards, we left separately and we didn't kiss or anything. The next day, over MSN Messenger, she asked when our next date was, and I politely said I didn't think we had a connection. She messaged me for about 2 weeks after that with increasingly desperate things. It started with, pick any place and I'll buy, to feeling lonely tonight, want to come over for some fun? To mutual friend who set us up and I are talking about threesomes and we need your opinion. A total lie, as I learned from the friend. To a picture of her cleavage. She started dating some other dude and the messages stopped. Not the kind of nice guy you're expecting here, because he really was nice, but I did guilt myself into the whole thing. He was Asperger autistic, and I've known how much he loved me for more than 2 years at that point because he wrote me cringy, over-the-top romantic poems every day and kept whining why I didn't just give him a chance. One day at a party where I let him be my date, he was my only male friend who was free on this day, he just kissed me out of nowhere and, well, I felt like I invited him to because I had asked him to join me after all. So I gave in and tried it with him, but I told him to quit all the cheesy stuff. He didn't, and I felt like crap. It felt like I was using him because he kept wasting his money buying dumb gifts like daily roses for me, even though I told him I didn't want him to spend only a single cent on me. He refused to listen, saying it'd be impossible to dial down his behavior, so I ended things after 2 weeks. Because of me, he now hates women. Oh well. I'm sorry. I know you said you believe he actually is nice, but this is still nice guy behavior. Constant pursuing someone despite being rejected like that isn't okay. I know him being on the spectrum muddies those waters a bit, but people need to respect others' boundaries. Plus, hating all women after being dumped is peak nice guy. Nice guy story where I was the nice guy. To this day, I feel terrible for my actions. This started 12 years ago when I was 19 years old. Met a girl at a club, hit it off right away, and she ended up being my girlfriend. At the start, everything was fantastic. We were genuinely happy together, and I was in a constant state of not believing my luck of having found a girl as awesome as her. About 1 month in, I did something very stupid. I met another girl. We had drinks and ended up sleeping together. Instead of coming clean with awesome girl number 1, I decided to keep it to myself. All was fine except for a little lingering voice which said that if I could do such a thing, surely she could as well. This voice grew louder over time. I started joking about her seeing other guys. You know, those half jokes which aren't funny at all and mainly make the other person feel bad. I started checking her phone, reading her socials, etc. At some point, I was certain she was cheating on me, even though there were no signs of it whatsoever. I started cutting her off from her friends, especially male friends, and getting angry if she did not respond to my texts inquiring where she was, with who and why she was not home. I started doing surprise visits and getting really angry with her if there happened to be male friends in her vicinity, even if they were in big groups. My reasoning with her was always that what we had was special and that she shouldn't want to spend her time with anyone else than just us. Manipulative as I was, I'd changed tactics in the span of minutes, being really nice and friendly one moment only to catch her off guard and get furious an instant later. I'd use my kindness to get information, trapping her in a constant cycle of guilt. Fast forward a bit, we've been together for a year now, and she has gone to uni making new friends. We are fighting every day now. One time I leave her house after a fight and realize I forgot my phone. I go back in, I had her keys, and found her crying in her room. A moment of clarity struck, and I broke up with her, justifying it to myself as a messiah act. Surely this would have been the end of it, but nope. What followed was 3 years of me texting her, calling her, trying to figure out if she was seeing anyone, and getting really angry when she was. It just did not stop. Even if we did not meet up for a few months and I had somehow convinced her I had changed, I'd end up doing the same thing over again on the very same day that we met up. As in, surely if she saw how nice I was now, she should want me back. So why doesn't she? Insert guilt trip, etc. This went on for years, and it killed me. I saw what I was doing to her and felt horrible for it. But that voice and entitlement kept popping up, so every time she offered me friendship, I'd unleash the guilt trip. At some point, it stopped. I started analyzing my own actions in this and shut off all contact with her or any of her friends, which were also my friends. I just forced it all away, and every time I felt this voice popping up, I'd try to analyze where this entitlement was coming from so that I could fight it. I can't really explain how it ended up going away other than the fact that one day I noticed I did not feel these things anymore. For a long time, I refused any form of romance with anyone, afraid that I would start the cycle again. After some time, I did meet someone else. We've been very happily together for 7 years now. When we started dating, I was very open about all this, which I think helped a lot. I rarely feel these pangs of jealousy pop up anymore. When they do, I know they are not rational and I can shrug it off with ease now. It's something that won't ever fully go away, but I know it's all me and I know where to find help when needed. I wanted to share this here not for sympathy or whatever, maybe just to show how creepy the mind can act from a first-person perspective. I feel terrible for what I have done to another person. Nobody is entitled to another person's love, attention, or affection. To those who are currently in a situation like this on the receiving end, walk away, cease contact, break it off. People don't change overnight. Even after years, it can still linger on buried deep in the mind. And ultimately, it's a person's responsibility to face your demons and do something about it. Don't get guilted into becoming the pillar of stability for another person to hang on to. The best thing you can do for the both of you is walk away. Nice guys of the world, take note. Nobody is entitled to another person's love, attention, or affection. That right there is maybe the most important lesson to take away from this whole video. That, and don't ever date someone out of guilt. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.